having Jupiter in the sign of Leo in the natal birth chart. This is the video for Jupiter in the natal birth chart, and I'm going to really go in depth as to the themes of what is going on for Jupiter in Leo, and what it could all mean and spell out for you in the spellerinos of what you could consider to be big and bold. Now, what is a sort of pessimism to be on the side of something very discreet? In this video, I'm going to be discussing some of the aspects and themes of what it means if you have Jupiter, the planet of expansion and philosophy, in the sign of Leo, the sign of the lion, the sign of bold, big, heart-centered energy. And I'm going to be going into depth about these themes that I'm going to be discussing with Jupiter in Leo. So now let us get into it. So the very first thing that I want to talk about is Leo is known for being heart-centered, yes, but it's also known for being very generous. At heart, it's a generous energy. It gives very boldly and proudly from its heart. It wants to shine. And the act of generosity is, I am willingly giving you a lot. I am willingly giving you a lot. I'm taking the computer and throwing it into the falls and putting blueberries in the pond and making them grow into beautiful plants. What this means is that you are literally taking something which is so small and turning it into something really big. So the act of generosity is really about not limiting yourself with how much you're giving, and not generosity from a place of martyrdom, like, oh, I have to give, it's my duty to give and provide and sacrifice. However, what this means is, in the natal birth chart, if you have this placement, is you are a very generous individual. And so, I think that's pretty obvious, given Leo's qualities. And generosity comes from the heart. It comes from, I am giving from my heart. I am following my heart. I am doing what my heart genuinely wants. I'm doing what I genuinely want to do from my heart because it feels right. I feel called to this. It feels right in my heart. I feel passionate about it. I feel inspired about it. And so I'm giving from my heart. That's where this can really play out very strongly, is from the heart. That is where this can play out. So generosity, giving from the heart. Now, another theme of this placement is, magnanimity, which is generosity. Now, I'm going to be real and transparent. I don't name names. I do not name names in these videos if I would feel uncomfortable about it. But I want to be real and go into some depth, and I do not want to censor myself, which I think is very important. A therapist that I know has Jupiter in Leo. And I just want to tie that into therapy. Jupiter in Leo in therapy. And inspiring confidence in others. What is therapy but you are sitting down in a chair. The therapist is right across from you, and you are literally telling them what is going on in your life, what are the problems. But there's something about not just giving your problems, but finding a solution to problems. Not just spilling out your whole list of your whole saga of what's going on in your life and all the troubles of your life, but finding solutions to those problems. Finding solutions to those problems. Finding a way to do that. And I think with my Jupiter and Virgo, I get so caught up in complaining and dwelling on the problems that I forget to see the potential, that I forget to see the positive. So in therapy, you are sitting down telling them, and then the therapist provides insight, guidance, and they can, depending upon the situation, inspire you to be more confident if you struggle with, say, self-worth issues. If you struggle with, say, making you walk down a street and being able to walk fast enough to where your body is moving fast and you have the confidence to walk boldly and really put your body first when you're exercising. Um, and that should really come first in the end of time. Your health is probably, well, I think it's actually the most important thing, really. Um, Given all that I've been through, um, being in the hospital recently, coming out of the hospital with all my issues, health has been the most important thing, and it's been something that I've had to maintain. Um, so the next thing that I want to talk about is egoism. What is egoism? The ego is the opposite of your intuition. It is the opposite of your intuition. Your intuition is your inner guiding compass. It is the compass needle. It is the direction of where you want to go. We have to get out of, and Sonia Choquette, who you can find, she has many, many videos. She posts every week, many videos on intuition. And now she's doing connecting with 5D dimensions, but she has a lot of videos on intuition. And the thing about intuition that's different from ego is that it um, it really acts as something that defies logic, because the ego is logic. The ego operates on logic. It's very left-brained. The ego, you're operating from your ego when, first of all, you're struggling to make a decision. You're struggling to decide on what path to take, what direction to go in, and you suddenly find yourself feeling contracted, feeling resistant. You suddenly find yourself conflicted between a decision, and you could lean in so naturally to one part of you, but your ego needs security, it needs familiarity, it needs routine, and you make a decision and it just doesn't feel natural. It's like you can't breathe and exhale and drop in and come home. Whereas if you're connecting with your intuition, you're dropping in. It feels natural. It feels easy. It flows. And also, I want to throw in here that the intuition is really all about making sense of the world around you through a spiritual lens that defies logic. And so what happens with intuition is that when it comes to the decision that you need to make. It is not just changing. Well, maybe it is changing, because you will have, I saw Sonia Chaket's video on intuition changing, and I don't think that I necessarily agree with that, because your intuition may be steady. It may be, the same for a while, but your ego wants the same thing. It wants security. So I actually disagree. I think that intuition does change, maybe easily, sometimes more easily than others, sometimes less easily. And intuition is something that is based off of your moods. You feel an intuitive hit to go in this direction, to start a new job, to start a new relationship, to go to that restaurant and order that dish, to go to the store and buy that piece of celery, to ask for a promotion, ask for a raise. Your intuition, may sway you in all these different directions, but it is really all about following your mood, really, and not being afraid. Because another thing about the ego is it wants you to be safe. It wants you to be completely safe, no change. It thrives on safety. It actually thrives on safety with the ego. And when it comes to ego, it is afraid to take risks. Your intuition says you're not afraid to take risks. When it feels right, you're not afraid to try something new, because sometimes the direction that we are going in is actually a direction that keeps us in a loop, keeps us in a, like we're a fish swimming around a tank with not expanding anywhere. It's kind of like you are just staying in the same old patterns, the same old job, whatever it is, and not moving out of that. Because of the familiarity that it gives you, and and it is afraid to give up control. The ego wants to be in control. The ego wants to drive the ship. It is afraid to be in control, or afraid to not be in control, I should say. And so, the ego drives the ship, and it wants safety, and your intuition tells you take a risk when it feels right. Short and, I want to move on to my next point about ego, which is all about the way of doing things that may be something very, very huge when it comes to all the kinds of things that you would be doing. So the next theme is creativity. Creativity is a really, really big part about Leo. In Leo energy, Jupiter in Leo. Leo is a creative energy, as I said before. You think of the cliche creatings, the cliche things that you create, but you can also think of creating a desk, creating a chair, creating a lamp, creating a pen, a piece of technology, creating a stuffed animal. It's, the act of creating is taking something, making something from the ground up that has never been invented before. You're being original with it. And so Leo is all about this kind of thing. And so they're very, very creative individuals, and their creativity can shine. They also need to feel, now this is a really, really big one with Leo, and I want to really, really go into some depth about this. There's a paradox with Leo. There's a paradox. On one side, they want to be fully themselves. They want to be their authentic selves. They want to shine in the spotlight. They don't want to be dim. They want to be the lion, step into their pride, be the be-all, end-all to what they have going on. And then on the other side, they're so consumed with what the group thinks of them and what their peers think of them and what their family thinks of them. They're so consumed with that they forget about themselves and their ways of doing things and their mottos for their life and their blinds for what they want to create. That they, that they can really, really forget about just being themselves. So there's this need to feel validated, not only from looking in the mirror and looking at, it could be, how do I look? Like a classic example is dressing up, and then, how do I look? Needing approval from others. And I think that, classic example of this is if you've ever seen the BBC British comedy Keeping Up Appearances. I have seen it multiple times, over and over. I've seen every single episode countless times throughout the years. I'm not going to talk about Hyacinth. In short, she's vain. She's very proud. She wants to keep up appearances with all the things her sisters are. Low-level living. She doesn't want to be seen with them. Point being, in the episode where they're on the QE2 cruise, there is a scene where she is literally changing into all these different outfits and asking Richard, her husband, how do I look dressing in this outfit, and becoming very perfectionistic about the outfits. Like, she wore an outfit in one scene of the episode, and she was like, she went outside, and she was like, this is more for afternoons, when it's really, do you like the outfit? Does it look good? Does it, is it your style? Of course it is, because you're buying your own clothes. But it could be that kind of a thing. So she was asking Richard to actually close his eyes and turn around and open them when she showed him her clothes. And so that's an example. And Hyacinth is the exaggerated caricature of a Leo with an Aries moon. I would categorize her as that. If you watch her, she is the stereotype of a Leo. Totally. Negatives, self-centered, as I've said before, vain, proud, all Leo, totally Leo. On the positives, she is the most open, talks about her life, talks about, her family, or the ones that she doesn't feel embarrassed by, at least. Talks about the man on the road. Talks about what candlelight supper she's doing. Talks about the events that she has going on. Like, she shares openly her life, and that's very Leo, sharing your heart. And Leo is very creative. She sings, not very well, she doesn't sing very well, but she loves to sing, and it can be very loud and annoying, actually, and most singing is not annoying. I used to sing a lot when I was in school, and a lot of the kids thought that I was annoying, but I myself really enjoyed singing, and I did not need the validation from anyone else. I enjoyed singing. It was fun. I was in the flow. My vibration was high. I was inspired. I was really enjoying it. So, um, there was this need for Leo to be validated, as I've said before, with not only how do you look, but how am I presenting myself? Am I speaking? I mean, whatever it is, there's this need for them to be validated for things that they do. Now, in that same vein, they thrive. Compliments and acknowledgement is fuel for them. They thrive on that. Any strong Leo placement does, but Jupiter just expands whatever it touches and makes everything bigger. So, um, so they can thrive on compliments and acknowledgments. That makes them feel appreciated. From doing the dishwashes to cooking a meal, they need that acknowledgement because that makes them feel good. If you have a strong somebody with Leo in your life, there's a lot of Leo energy, recognize the things that they do well, the things that they enjoy doing, or the tasks that they do around the house, the work that they do, whatever they're doing. Acknowledge them, give them compliments, make them feel appreciated, and then you will be on the road to success with them. You will be on very, very good terms with them, significant terms with them, if you simply give them compliments and acknowledgments. Leo's the lion, and they are very, very proud of what they do. They're incredibly proud. They take a lot of pride. And sometimes at the low level, Leos need to swallow their pride. And that can be, going back to what I was saying about ego, the ego can be very prideful, very vain, very much about, um, my way is better than your way. I'm the best and you're not. I'm better at this than you are. Um, all these kinds of egoic types of things that you can tell. And along that same thing, the ego separates. The ego completely, it's like we're separate, you versus me, instead of the intuition, which is we are all one, seeing you for who you really are, looking into the soul part of who you really are, as opposed to your ego. And on some level, we need ego. We need the little outfits, and we need the filters to get around in the world. However, um, we have to drop into our intuition. The ego should not be leading the ship. The ego can serve as a helper to the intuition, but it should not be the be all end all. It should not be the one driving the ship. The intuition drives the ship, the ego serves, not the other way around. And so Leo in astrology corresponds to the fifth house. And I do want to say this openly because you're going to see it on my channel. I have done AI shorts. Don't change the channel. Don't leave. I'm using discretion. I am putting hashtags in to let you know that it's AI and not me. Point being, in some of those shorts, I have selected some music, choral music specifically, because I really, really like choral music, and I have a whole list of songs about choral songs about astrology and other topics on a list that I actually want to compose. And I hope that you're not going to think anything bad of me when I say this, but there's a lot of ideas with AI. AI can give you a lot of ideas. I don't want to go into a whole discussion about that. I have a whole nother video on my channel about that AI and channel update. You can check that out. I am not going to repeat everything that I said in that video. Point being, it really does a lot. And so when it comes to these music, this music, it can really, really be a lot, because what I have is I have shorts coming out, and they're astrology-based songs. Okay, so as I was gonna say, don't think anything bad of me, but AI can give you some great ideas, but don't use it as your source, or probably your only source. You can use it as a resource for resources, I think recommendations for videos, for websites, but not for the information that it provides. That is what I believe. That is, I think, safe to say about AI. I'm kind of skirting around the surface because it's such a hot button issue these days. Ever since Pluto moved into Aquarius, AI has just been all over the place, and it's getting worse. It's hard to tell what is and what isn't. Yeah, I mean, there's so many things about it. And so I'll probably take ideas from those songs, like certain verses from it, and add to it, because those shorts only give you one verse. And, for that matter, they don't do voice parts. They do, like, it's very, but I tried to add as much variety as I could, while still, does this song make sense for this particular topic? So I tried to balance that out when I was doing them. And so one of them is on the houses. So there's a song about the fifth house. So now I want to talk about the fifth house. What is the fifth house? I'm going to go through these things very, very quickly, because this is not an astrology video about the fifth house. The big themes are romance, dating, creativity, children. All these things they can do really, really well at. Anything creative, really, because the fifth house rules what you create. What you create. Anything that you make, a child, a book, a painting, that's what it rules. The fifth house is the area of life that rules that. And so that's very important. Now, another thing that I want to talk about is Leo is very, very courageous. It can be, Leo is a sign of courage. It's about being brave. What kind of bravery do you want to step into? What kind of courage do you want to step into doing very, very well, and very fortunately. So courage is something really, really huge with Leo energy, and it's about being brave. Being brave is not what being brave is. Yes, I'm feeling the fear of this. I have the fear. I'm not denying it. I'm not pushing it down, but I'm choosing to go against that fear and doing it anyway and face the odds, because I need to get this thing done, or I want to take a risk, or I want to try this despite the fear. Leo is very much about living beyond your fear. Fear can keep us safe, for sure, but it can also limit us in what we can produce and do, in the risks that we take. And so Leo is very much about living a life beyond your fear, stepping into who you are, living a life, living big. And in order to live big, you have to go beyond your fear. Jupiter in Leo is about going big and living big. Another theme of Leo is willpower. They have very, very strong willpower. Leo is a fixed sign. Fixed signs hold on to things. They're stubborn. And I want to talk a little bit about fixed signs here. Fixed signs in astrology, Leo, Aquarius, Taurus, Scorpio, are stubborn. They're known to be stubborn, but only because they have the willpower and they have the commitment to actually stick it out and um, and make it happen for the long term, and they are in it. When they are committed to something, they put the blinders on and they are fully in it. And so Leo is a fixed sign, and it does it from its heart. It does it in its own way, and so people with Jupiter and Leo have a lot of willpower. Strength and determination. Strength and determination is, they're very, very strong. They have a lot of inner strength, and they're very, determined and committed to their goals. Again, the fixed sign determination. The last thing that I want to talk about is Leo rules children. Jupiter in Leo is very childlike. Don't think that Leo is the only childlike sign. Gemini and Aries are two signs that are incredibly childlike. Aries the toddler, Aries the baby, Gemini the toddler. This is very, very huge when it comes to Jupiter in the sign of Leo, because Leo is not only childlike, but it can get support from children. It enjoys taking care of children. Going back to creativity, Leo is the child within us all. Leo in spirituality and astrology, if you take a spiritual approach to astrology, is the inner child. A child doesn't structure things. It doesn't have a plan. It doesn't schedule. It doesn't know how to do Excel spreadsheets. It does not know how to, make money. It does not know how to buy land, grow crops, do taxes. It simply is about living in the moment, and Leo is one of the signs that is about living in the now, living in the moment, maximizing life. And Leo in general does not buy into the whole you surrender to the universe, a higher force is in charge. That's not fire energy. Leo says you create your own reality. You make things happen in your own life because that's what fire signs are about. And so, Leo is the childlike, spark of it all that just lives in the moment. I have an inspiration to sing on the top of the rooftops, to sing a song, to play, to do all these kind of things. I'm going to get a little bit personal here. When I was little, I used to have this pretend thing called an Amenton, Amenten, where I would pretend to invite guests that I saw in movies, TV shows, in real life that I had a crush on, or that I admired, or I was entranced or enamored by, and I pretended to invite them in, give them a tour, and honor them in specific ways. There's several ways to honor them that I came up with. A resemblance prayer, where you get together with one person that reminds you of that other person and acknowledge the similarities and differences. Music, songs that represent them with the things that they say, with the things that they represent. and going on all these kind of occasions, doing all these kind of things, honoring them. And I also used to really pretend to teach as well. I used to be very much into teaching, pretending to teach. It's very much about being in charge, being the teacher. I really admired teachers, adults, and people that were in charge, people that had authority. And I think it's very natural for a lot of children is to not only look up to people who have authority, but wanting to be more like them, wanting to step into their role in some way or another, wanting to play them because we want to see what that's like because we're a child and we don't know what it's like, so we want to experience what it's like. We're a child, children see things as black and white, see the world very simplistically. Adults did this, that way is that. As you grow a bit adult, the world becomes more nuanced, the world becomes more complex. So I want to just kind of talk about that because, and I pretended I had all these voices, I had all these characters that I pretended to put on. I had all these voices that I changed into. I had all these creative ideas and I acted on them without thinking them through, without a schedule, without a structure. And play shouldn't be structured. Play is the exact opposite of structure. When you put structure to play, it's like putting tomatoes in New England clam chowder. It is like putting, this is going to sound really, really gross, so I hope that you're not eating watching this, sausage in a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. When you put a schedule to play, you destroy the play. You destroy, the whole point is to be inspired, to act in the moment, to do what you are genuinely motivated to do because of your heart desire without thinking it through, without a structure to it. So that's what I want to say about that. It can gain a lot of support from children, a lot of support from children about, really living, within all those kind of things like that, so that people with Jupiter and Leo in the natal birth chart can really gain a lot of support from children, that children can really help them be in their childlike spirit. It's very, very refreshing to have children in our lives because they take us away from our duties, our responsibilities, or they remind us about the fun side of life, the lighter side of life. And remind us to be in the moment, remind us to act on what we're inspired to do. That's what children remind us to do, and to consider and to live our life in some kind of accordance to that. In a way, when we can, of course, when we want to, when we have the time or the energy. So gaining support, they're very, very good with children, nurturing children. And so that is all that I have. This concludes this live stream about Jupiter and Leo. I hope that you find it insightful. I hope that you find it interesting. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you don't miss future uploads. I post new general astrology videos like this every week, either on a live stream, podcast, or video. And hit the notification bell so that you don't miss future videos. And I would really, really encourage you to share this video with somebody who has Jupiter and Leo or is interested in Jupiter and Leo, because I think there's a lot of very interesting things in here that they would find enjoyable if you like astrology. And if you like this content, I also recommend you check out Adam Ellenbuss's channel, who has videos every day about the transits going on for the for not every day, but going on. He really just breaks it down into a few themes, really adding his own insights, going into all these different ideas, not giving astrology videos where you're listing all these things and talking very little about them. Because that's what I used to do, and I found that didn't work anymore, where I had all these things that I wanted to talk about, and it was just so much I couldn't go in depth on them, and I was rushing. Now I've reduced it down to just a few things that I can really go in depth upon. So his content is very, very interesting, and I will see you in the next video or live stream or whatever it is. And I've done live streams in the past. For some reason, I haven't seen any comments on live streams, so it is nice to see some comments. I will not respond to comments during lives because I'm busy with what I'm saying, but you certainly can comment. Definitely, I encourage it. Maybe I'll be able to see it back. Um, and maybe this will save as private, maybe. I don't know. Maybe I'll have to make it public. But anyway, I could go on about that. Anyway, bye for now, everybody.